Hello and welcome to this Catholic Prison Ministry Coalition webinar. Today our topic is Sowing and Growing a Different Future, and we're going to have people from the Grafton Correctional Institution explaining us some wonderful programming that they started there. And so I'd like to introduce our speakers today. First of all, I'm Father George Williams. I'm the chaplain at St. Quentin and on the board of Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition. It's great to have you with us. And Sister Rita Mary Harwood is a sister of Notre Dame, and she retired after 27 years from her position as Director of Parish Life and Development for the Diocese of Cleveland. And this included ministry to the incarcerated. So now as a volunteer, Sister Rita Mary has continued her prison ministry work, and she's also established a refugee response center to assist refugees and migrants coming into the Northeast Ohio area. We also have as a speaker today is Patrick Goreau. He's the president and CEO of Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Cleveland since 2011. And prior to that, Mr. Goreau served as the president and chief executive officer at St. Augustine Health Ministries. He began his career with the U.S. Army, which he served for 7 years, attaining the rank of captain. He's a native Clevelander, and he received his BS from John Carroll University, his MA degree in business management from Central Michigan University in 1985. And currently he serves on the board of directors of Catholic Community Connection, Diocesan Facilities Services Corporation, United Way of Cleveland, and the Village of St. Edward. And coming from Grafton, we have Warden Stephen Reynolds. His career with the Department of Rehabilitations and Corrections spans over 30 years. He served as a corrections officer, lieutenant, captain, major, deputy warden, and now warden. And before working in corrections, he served our country in the Air Force as a security police specialist. And he has his bachelor's degree in criminal justice and has a proven record of supporting reentry initiatives and engaging the incarcerated in community service. He's going to be retiring this year, so we wish you well, and as you go fishing and work on your golfing skills. So it's great to have you all with us. And also I want to mention we have several men from the Grafton Correctional Institution visiting us, and they're going to be sharing their experiences as well. I'll let them introduce themselves when we come to that point. But let's start with you, Sister Rita Mary. Thank you so much for being with us today.
And thank you for the opportunity to be with you. Really, we appreciate that very much. And I want to say good morning and good afternoon to all of you who are out there. Really very aware that we're across the country, and it's wonderful really to have this opportunity. I've been so grateful on a number of occasions myself in being able to participate in these sessions that are provided by the Catholic Ministry to the Incarcerated Coalition. They've been so helpful to me, and my hope is that we can be that for all of you this afternoon. I'd like to talk a little bit about the history of and very briefly, the history of the prison ministry here in the Cleveland Diocese. We're a diocese of 8 counties, and in, I would say, mid-1990s, we began to look at that ministry from a diocesan point of view. We had individuals, certainly, and parish communities who were involved in prison ministry in their own areas. But I met Bishop Quinn. He invited me to a meeting one day where he wanted to talk about prison ministry on a diocesan level. And it was a very good meeting. And at the end, he asked if anybody would be interested in organizing a ministry for the diocese, getting us all together. Please let me know. I met him about 5 weeks later and said, did anybody offer? And he said, nobody did. And I said, that's a shame because I think it's really important. And he said to me, it is. And what's wrong with you? So that was the beginning for me of really a wonderful ministry that I have fallen fully in love with. It's been a beautiful experience. So we started then probably in about 97, 98, and to organize, to kind of bring us together that we might be able to support and to strengthen what was already happening, and certainly to expand it much more. That involved a lot of involvement, community involvement, planning, recruitment, training, placement of different people in the various institutions. And we did that, I think, in a way that invited the involvement of the whole community. So we drew our faculties from certainly from the corrections community, from the courts. It was a fascinating experience. We had formerly incarcerated persons on our committee, family members. It was really good. And I think that engagement and that participation led to a sense of the building of a community that was in this because we cared about people. The ministry grew. I'm talking about going back 25 years, 27 years. And certainly within the institutions, our ministries expanded, not only within one institution, but engaging others across the 8 counties of the diocese. Our ministry to those who were incarcerated included what we all know: prayer, sacraments, Bible study, RCIA, AA groups, small group discussions, etc. And that was really, really wonderful. But as a result, we also became aware of those who never got a letter. I remember one man saying to me, "I was in for 5 years and you were the only one that wrote to me." And so we began a letter writing ministry. We began a ministry to those who were indigent and leaving the prisons or the jails. Though also, in some institutions, they permitted us to help the indigent directly. We also started a family ministry for the members of family who had a loved one incarcerated, and that has grown over the years. Prior to the pandemic, we had 450 men and women engaged in prison ministry, and that was really wonderful. And then the pandemic hit. And I think that all of us were very, very aware, not only of the broader community, but of those who were incarcerated during that time. And it was then that I got a phone call from Deputy Warden Jennifer Galeese, and her question was, "Sister, the men are concerned about the community. They're worried about how people are doing out in the community, and they want to know how they can help." I was very touched by that question. I was deeply touched by that question. And so I was determined that I was going to find ways that we could work together, that we could help one another. And so I went to Patrick Garreau. The first group that called me were the Tackers. Those were the sewers at the Grafton Correctional Institution. I had been in the tailor shop, quality work. I thought, oh, this is a good opportunity. And then the second were the gardeners. They said they want to make a garden for those who are in the community and need food. So I went to Pat Garreau, who is the president of Catholic Charities, and I said to him, "Pat, we've got an offer for help from the men at the Grafton Correctional Institution. What do we need?" And Pat, I want you to pick up at that point, please.
Okay. Thanks, Sister. First of all, I want to thank the gentlemen of Grafton for all that you are contributing to our communities. As you know, as the pandemic went on, prices of everything kind of soared. And over time, it was very impactful in a negative way on the people in the community. There are neighborhoods in Cleveland and in the surrounding areas that have food deserts. There are things that the men of Grafton provided for them that they had never seen before. And the need for fresh food and fresh produce is really good for the nutritional value. So my experience, first of all, when Sister called me, I thought, okay, well, where do we get the vegetables? So we went to a kind of a small garden center, and it started out very small. There were only a couple specific requests that the men had. So I kind of went with my gardening instincts, and I got hot peppers, and they wanted corn, so I got some really good corn seed, lots of tomatoes, and everything I could think of. But again, it was kind of small. We rented a U-Haul and we delivered it. My son helps me every year. It's kind of our thing to do now. But I found out later from Mr. Reynolds that 10-foot corn stalks aren't a good fit for the prison yard. You can just imagine, they're really tall. And also, we can't have any hot peppers, so. But we learned a lot. The second year, I went to another garden center and asked them if they could at least give me like wholesale value or wholesale pricing, and they wouldn't do it. I still bought the vegetables for the garden then. And finally, the third year, you're gonna meet Ricky. Ricky reached out to me and had a list of real specific, he had done his homework, he learned a lot, he studied. He had a list of all these different vegetables with about 5 or 6 different varieties of tomatoes and peppers and everything under the sun. And I thought, well, I have to find a bigger place and a better place. So I looked online and I settled on a place called Boyards. It's a family-run business, and I'll try to be brief. I'm probably going on too long, but it's a family-run business. Their children are involved in it. It's a really nice place, beautiful place. So I was able to pick out all of these things that Ricky had requested in his letter, and I went to them and I said, "Can you give us, a small discount or wholesale price?" And they said, "Well, sure, they can." So I had to come back to get it on another day. And when I had my company credit card, I went to pay for it, and Mr. Boyert said, "No, but this is a wonderful thing that you're doing to help the men and to help the community." So since that time, every year, the Boyert family, Boyert's Greenhouse, donates the vegetable plants. And, this whole thing has been life-changing for me, and I know it's life-changing for the men. It's a wonderful thing that they're doing, and the benefits in our community, it's fantastic. I think Sister told a story also of we have a homeless shelter and many food programs, and it turned out that one of the men's father was benefiting because his sister was coming to one of our food pantries. So one of the men had the opportunity to provide food for his very father, and that's a pretty heartwarming detail. We just really can't thank you all enough, the men, and I think this is a wonderful thing. One of the first things Sister and I talked about was, boy, this would be nice if it could be replicated. And really, the leadership of Grafton Prison with Steve Reynolds and his predecessor are just amazing. And we really are grateful to them for all that they're doing.
Mhm. Thank you, Patrick. I think the other group that I want to mention, because of the impact that they had on Catholic Charities, but also on our educational institutions, were the Tackers. The first group that called were the Tackers, the sewers. And we needed masks so badly. I remember Pat saying, "I have a week's supply." And we have an extensive network of offices and agencies that are working with the people. And I thought a week's supply. And so I called back right away. And within a very short amount of time, those men had over 2,000 masks prepared, which we distributed to all of those agencies, not only to the employees, but to all the clients who came in for help. When they got to about 18,000 masks, I was worried they were going to say to me, "We don't need any more masks." And I wasn't going to let that happen. And so I went to the schools and I said, "Do you need masks?" And boy, the response was very, very positive. And I'll never forget the children beginning to write letters to the gentlemen at the Grafton Correctional Institution. They would start out, "Dear gentlemen of Grafton," and then they would describe what a difference the mask was making for them. One little girl, and I love the story, said, she was in the first grade, "Dear gentlemen of Grafton, my favorite color is blue. I don't know how you knew that, but you made me a blue mask. It's the best mask I've ever had in my whole life. I love it." I laughed when I saw that letter. It was hanging on the walls of the tailor shop. And I thought to myself, she's in the first grade and this is the best mask she's had in her whole life. That's really exciting. So thank you. In the end, we do not agree on the number of masks that have been made. My number, according to my edition, was 49,000. And their number, according to their edition, was 39,000. And only in heaven are we really going to know the answer to that. So thank you. Steve, would you like to talk about the Grafton Correctional Institution?
Yeah, but before we get started, I'd like to show a short video just to kind of give you a little insight on the facility. If we could show that first.
Located just 30 minutes outside of Cleveland, Ohio, Grafton Correctional Institution serves the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections Northeast region. GCI is a medium and minimum security compound consisting of both cell and dormitory-style housing units. With approximately 400 staff members, GCI can house up to 1,700 incarcerated adults who are serving sentences ranging from life to less than 12 months. GCI offers an array of services and opportunities for our incarcerated population. Our Religious Services Department, in collaboration with 3 religious service contractors and over 50 volunteers from a variety of faith perspectives, coordinates several nationally recognized programs, such as the Prison Fellowship Tier 2 Academy, Stephen Ministries, True Freedom Ministries, and the Art of Marriage Seminar. Our Education Department provides both academic and vocational instruction to our incarcerated population. Our school offers GED classes as well as several college-level courses and certificate programs, while our vocational department offers training in machining, horticulture, welding, and business operations, as well as apprenticeships including building maintenance, drafting, HVAC, electrical, culinary arts, and food service management, which offer the opportunity for our population to hone their job skills through real-life experience. GCI has several groups which focus on giving back to the community, both inside and outside of prison. Examples include our Red Cross chapter, maintaining a garden which is currently projected to provide over 10,000 pounds of food to local food banks this year. Our local branch of Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, Ohio Penal Industries, transcribes literature into Braille for use in the blind community. The Love a Pup program trains local shelter dogs to help in their successful adoption, and the WAGS program trains companion dogs to assist people with disabilities. In addition to general population units, GCI also has several specialized programming units. These include our Residential Treatment Unit, which provides intensive inpatient mental health treatment, the Stepping Stones Therapeutic Community, which treats substance abuse through highly structured daily programming, utilizing clinician involvement, behavioral therapy classes, and group meetings, a Holistic Health Unit, which aims to provide a focus on physical, mental, and spiritual health. Our Veterans Unit houses a local chapter of the Vietnam Veterans Association and provides service and support specific to the needs of veterans. Another unit houses the Prison Fellowship Academy, an intensive religious-based program which strives to lead its participants through a holistic life transformation process to lead lives of purpose and productivity inside and outside of prison. And finally, the newest addition, the Restorative Citizens Normalcy Center, part of Grafton's Normalcy Initiative. GCI is in the process of transforming this unit to encompass the ideas behind the normalization philosophy, which strives to use a combination of intensive programming and lifestyle changes to create an atmosphere which is as normal as possible, and to help bridge the gap between incarcerated life and that of a restored citizen, in the hopes of lessening the likelihood of reoffense in the community and increase the possibility of successful reentry. The staff and incarcerated adults spearheading this initiative, under the direction of Warden Keith Foley, have spent countless hours researching, planning, developing, and implementing a program which hopes to change the face of corrections in the state of Ohio, creating safer institutions for staff and the incarcerated population alike, and creating safer communities through the restored citizens whose lives we have touched.
So I thought it was important to share that video with you. And if you've seen the snapshot at the end, that is our staff and our incarcerated population together with everybody waving in front of our normalcy unit. So as you can see in here, Grafton does a lot. Very busy institution. We definitely work hard at engaging our population to try to keep everybody safe and to gear our folks up for going back out in the community and being productive citizens. So I do want to start by talking a little bit about what we've done over the past 3 years with the garden. Impressive number. We provided 30,000 pounds of vegetables for Catholic Charities and PAT, who help the community give to the food banks, along with the Cosgrove Centers and other places. The masks, Sister Rita, you are correct. The guys today determined we're approximately at 50,000 masks during 2021 and 2022 during the pandemic. So you heard a little bit about Sister Rita speaking on how we kind of developed our relationship between the prison and Catholic Charities, and we already had a relationship, but during the pandemic that relationship flourished. It grew. And I give a lot of credit to Sister Rita and Pat for that. In order to be successful with the community engaging in the institution, you have to have trust and you have to have close bond. And I feel like we developed that over the past several years for sure. Think about a prison setting. In 2021, when the pandemic hit, there was a lot of uncertainty in the world. Nobody really knew how this was going to play out and what was going to happen. We have approximately 1,700 incarcerated persons in our facility. With that large of a population within a 40-acre prison, it was challenging to wrap our heads around all the changes and what we need to do dealing with social distancing. We set up plans to cohort to have these guys in smaller groups in case we did have outbreaks in the facility. Along with that is, what do? You can't keep guys locked down 24/7. We still had to do some things to keep these guys engaged and give them hope and let them do something worthwhile. So reaching out to Sister Rita was probably the best thing that we could have done at the time. And game planning, when we looked at what the needs were, I think the two biggest needs at the time were masks in the community that was at a shortage and providing that extra food that's needed out in the community for folks that weren't working. And our men stepped up to the plate. Some of the things we put in place wasn't easy at the time, but it was kind of contagious. The more the men helped the community and gave them a sense of purpose, the more they wanted to be out there. I distinctly remember these guys asking, they're in there making masks, and they was asking if I could have their meals delivered so they didn't have to leave and move away from there so they could eat and get right back to work. They asked if I could put extra officers over there in the evening so they could come back over and work double shifts over there making masks. And the need was great at the time. Sister Rita reached out to a lot of areas. You think about, not only the schools, but nursing homes. There was a big need in the community for masks. These guys stepped up to the plate. Same way with our garden. Our garden started out small. I think the first year we produced, guys, help me out. What was our numbers our first year?
1,300.
So we had produced about 1,300 pounds of vegetables the first year. And this year, our number was over 16,000 pounds. So you see how that expanded, and I'll let these guys get a chance to speak on that a little bit. But I just want to say, developing that relationship with Catholic Charities did quite a few things. It really helped engage our institution and helped our men engage, provided them hope, gave them a sense of responsibility and just giving back to the community. So
That's right.
I am going to turn it over to the men so they can give a little testimony about what their roles are, helping out with our community partners, and give a little testimony on how they're helping the community.
Okay, hi, my name's Jeff. I'm 44 years old. I've been incarcerated for about 17 years. 12 years of that has been here at Grafton. Before then, I was at Trumbull Correctional and Lebanon Correctional before that. When I first came to prison, after I got acclimated a little bit, I started looking for ways that I could pay back the community and society, and I was coming up empty-handed. So after coming to Grafton, I was able to find the tacker shop, and there was projects there I was able to get in and help to pay back a little bit. During the pandemic, when we were all locked down a lot of the time, and seeing things on the news, hearing things from my family and friends about how bad it was out on the street, and feeling helpless, like there was nothing that I could do. Sometimes it seemed like maybe God didn't care anymore, and it was hard to keep thoughts like that out of your mind. But working with Catholic Charities and working on the Mass and working with these guys here and some other fellas reminded me that God does care, and people generally care about each other. And with the help of Catholic Charities, we felt like we were on a mission to do good and help the world and possibly make a difference. So it really helped me get through the time of the pandemic. It staved off a lot of depression and just made me feel better about myself to help other people. I've found over the years that the best way to find happiness in life is by helping other people. And there's not always a lot of ways you can do that. I know that there's a lot of other men in the institution that are often asking about community service and things that they can do to help. And if there's a way that I can help them find help in doing that, I do so. Obviously, not everybody can sew, and we can't put everybody in the sewing room either. It's not that big. So if you want to do this at a prison where you're at, I would suggest to maybe ask the incarcerated persons there what they think they might want to do. Maybe give them some ideas and suggestions. But if their ideas or suggestions will work, roll with it, because if you're doing something that somebody suggested and they want to do, it makes them really work harder at it. And then with Catholic Charities, Sister Rita always lets us know where these things go to, how people reacted when they got them, how it affected them. And that really helps too, because before we were working with Catholic Charities, we knew where things went that we made in the tacker shop, but we never knew the reaction. We never really knew the true impact of what it did for the people that received those items. So that's definitely something that I think helps motivate everybody and continue to keep on the good fight. So thank you for having me.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe. I've been incarcerated for 18 years. It's been about almost 10 years now. I've been here at Grafton. Previously, I was at Mansfield Correctional. Just give you a little background information. I received my bachelor's from John Carroll University. I worked in IT, and I was a software programmer. I'd started a family on the outside. I have two beautiful daughters, and they're all grown up now. And the reason I mention that is, when you come to prison, obviously you lose your freedom. You're separated from your family and your friends, separated from my daughters. But the other thing is, if you have a career that you love, you miss out on that. And I certainly loved my career. And so when I first came to prison, I felt that void. And I tried to find ways to fill that. And so, I realized early on that I had to do something, use, my experience in education and, to give back. And so what I've done throughout most of my bit is I've worked as a tutor, helping guys get their GEDs. For about 3 years, I had to work. We had a Braille shop here. It'd been open for decades. Unfortunately, that closed down last year, and that was the closest thing to like having a career in prison. But the other thing I did, probably after a couple years of being initially locked up, was working and doing community service. So I learned how to do arts and crafts, learned how to knit. But the best thing I think that I did was about 5 or 6 years ago, I started working in a tacker shop. And I really didn't know too much how to sew, but I worked at it and I picked it up. It wasn't that difficult. And this was before the pandemic. But when the pandemic started and we started working with Catholic Charities, that's when everything really got ramped up. We got to work 7 days a week. We got to work some 12-hour days. But it's always fulfilling, doing, previous to that, doing community service was always fulfilling. But what made it so great working with Catholic Charities, and Sister Rita mentioned this, is when we started receiving letters and cards from elementary schools and high school students. And we actually got this feedback from them and how it impacted them, and that was great. And so I love hearing feedback from Sister Rita about where the stuff that we sew, where it's going to, and how it's helping people out, and seeing photographs and pictures of this stuff. It really helps us. It's a great great motivator for us to have tangible evidence of how this is affecting people on the outside. And working at a tacker shop, it's like a vocation for me. We get to work Monday through Friday. The shop's open from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we're all volunteers though, so we can come and go and fit in our schedule as we see fit. So we can work. We can make it almost like a full-time job, but all the men in this room have jobs, and whether you work in a tacker shop, you work in the garden, this is something extra that we do. And I found in prison that those that do community service tend to be guys that have a lot on their plate. We do a lot of things, and we find time, we prioritize, and it has such great benefits. We know we're helping others on the outside, but even for ourselves, this spiritual, emotional, and mental benefits we get are just tremendous. And one last point I like to make is, if you're at a prison, you're thinking about starting some community service programs, is, what I've found is so many talented and educated and skilled individuals in prison. And no matter what you want to start, there's somebody there that's incarcerated that's probably done it before. And there's going to be people that are going to be motivated and interested in whatever community service project you want to start, even if they don't have a background or experience in that area. There are skilled and intelligent people that can pick it up and can learn this new skill and find something that they love. We have in the tacker shop, we brought in another individual recently in the last month or two. Never sewed before in his life, but I've worked with him before. All the guys in the shop know him. I've worked with him in the Braille shop. He's got a great work ethic. He's hardworking. He's intelligent, and he can pick up things really well. And it's just an example there. Somebody that's motivated to work, he can pick up the skill, and I think he's going to be a great addition to our shop. And that's all I have for right now, and thank you for this opportunity.
My name is Chris. I've been incarcerated for 12 years. I've been at Grafton for about 10. Prior to that, I was at Belmont Correctional. a little bit of background on me, and I hope this isn't a bad reflection on them, but I am also a graduate of John Carroll University. So, but Patrick, you know, you're in good company. But I guess maybe the silver lining is to consider that Jones stuff. So that I guess would say something about what they've instilled in us in terms of creating men and women for others. But anyway, after graduating college, I went on to work in the logistics industry, and I managed distribution of liquid oxygen and nitrogen nationwide to a variety of businesses, including hospitals. Fast forward, you know, coming into prison, you know, I was able to start working with the TACR program. When the pandemic hit, it was kind of tough for me because I spent so many years in an industry where, you know, my job was to, you know, get urgently needed medical supplies such as oxygen to hospitals when they need it. So when I saw what was going on in the world, you know, I was like just chomping at the bit, like thinking, gosh, I could be out there helping right now. And you know, it hurt me that I was in here unable to do anything. But then this opportunity came along and we were able to help make masks. And it was really great just to be able to help in some way. And I guess for me, you know, I could go on and on about all the benefits that this program has brought to me, but I'll narrow it down a little bit. So to me, when we started working with Catholic Charities, again, this TACR program, the sewing program, has existed at Grafton for almost 25 years. And I think these guys have touched on it. We did a lot of work for a lot of local charities. We did a lot of good stuff. But it wasn't until we partnered up directly with Catholic Charities that this thing really expanded. And for me, one of the great things is just knowing that not only are we helping a lot of people just in Northeast Ohio, but the stuff that we make is going to help people all over the country, and people that are impacted around the world. You know, our stuff goes to refugees that are coming from Ukraine and Afghanistan. Our stuff is being sent down to the border for people in need down there. So it's really been just incredible to see that the work that I'm doing, that we're doing in here, is having such a large impact in the world. The other thing, it's allowed me to have a bigger connection with my family. My parents, being parishioners of the Diocese of Cleveland, you know, they've been able to get in touch with Sister Rita Mary, and they've been able, in their own way, to be able to help do some projects and help the community as well. So it gives us this connection that didn't exist before, but it's something that brings us closer together, that we can talk about the things that they're doing, the things that I'm doing, which is tremendous. And, you know, yesterday was my birthday, so I had a conversation with my parents, and as birthday conversations tend to go in here, it got a little deep. But, you know, they just talked about how proud they were of me, which for guys like us that are in here, when you get your loved ones to talk to you about that stuff, it's, you know, it can be really impactful and very life-changing. So for me, and one of the things that they're proud of is what I've been able to do working with this program and helping Catholic Charities. So for me, there's no way to describe it but priceless. And that's not something I wouldn't be able to accomplish, I don't think, in any other avenue. So, and that's all I have for now. Thank you all very much for allowing us to attend.
Good afternoon. Hello, my name's Martin, and I've been incarcerated for 32 years. I've been at Grafton for about 8, and I've been part of the TACR shop working with Catholic Charities for 4. Before the prison, I lived with my music teacher, wife, and son near Youngstown and owned a music store that employed about 50 staff. So I come from a business music background.
That's right.
I started with the tackers by cutting and ironing masks because the guys wouldn't trust me with the sewing machine or anything else. So I actually started cutting with just scissors. They finally gave me the rotary cutter, but you know, that's how I started in the early days of the pandemic. And as you all know, the early days of the pandemic were very dark with a lot of fear and uncertainty. And making masks, even if I was just sewing pleats and masks, gave me a sense of purpose and made me feel I was helping in some small way. As I made masks, eventually I did graduate to sewing machine. I imagined the people who'd wear them. I was thinking about, you know, the little grade schooler that would eventually write about her favorite mask of her life. The grandmother, I was thinking about if my grandmother's going to end up wearing this, you know, what would I want her to have in a mask? And I thought about the grade school teacher that's trying to keep order in her classroom. And so I really tried, as I was making each mask, trying to imagine who might wear it and how it might impact them. And that gave me a real sense of doing something for others that really helped me deal with the stress and dark days of the pandemic. Eventually, the need for masks went away. And although I'm not a skilled sewer, I still tried to keep in mind the people that were working, that would wear or use the products we made. So as I make each item still, I imagine the people who might be using them. And so after we finished making masks, we started doing things like making curtains for refugees' homes, fidget blankets for dementia units, and blankets, scarves, hats, all sorts of things. I kind of landed on duffel bags for some reason. The very first duffel bag I made, probably 3 years ago, we made out of old T-shirts. And I hope they were usable. We had to make them double layers because the T-shirt material wasn't too strong. But as we were able to talk to the people who actually handed out the duffel bags, and Sister Rita was good about making sure we had communication between people. I came up and kept redesigning, and it seems like every 2 or 3 months I redesign duffel bags. I'm the only one that brought a show and tell today, but this is a duffel bag I just finished this week. And it has all sorts of things that I would never have thought of, but I was told by the lady who hands them out at the Cosgrove Center that 2 straps was better than 1 strap. Duffel bags always have 1 strap. That's what I grew up with. And she said, no, it'd be nicer to wear it as a backpack. So I'm putting 2 straps on it. Sister Rita told me that if they needed documents to keep dry. So I now put in big pockets for documents, and there's Velcro closures on them so they can keep them somewhat safe. Inside, this particular duffel bag has 12 pockets inside and 3 pockets outside, so they can store things. And this is the first one I've ever put a zipper top in. So we'll see whether that helps or not, whether that makes it nicer. But the idea is that by knowing where they're going and how they're being used and getting feedback from the people who work with those, I have been able to, the task becomes more meaningful for me. And I think the product I'm putting out, at least, is more useful for the people I'm intending it for. Yeah. And so they asked us when we were getting prepared for this, if we have any advice for institutions or prisons or charities that are thinking about using prisoners. One thing I would really encourage you is make sure you communicate not just what you need, but then give feedback on what we send you. Because if we find that our curtains that we sent you were too short, we need to know that so the next set isn't too short. If the fidget blankets fall apart when your patients pick them up, well, let us know that. We don't want to send second-rate material. So that would be my advice in terms of how to establish and make a good program. So that's my take on Catholic Charities, and I'm very blessed to be part of it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paul. I've been incarcerated for 19 years. I've been at Grafton for the last 12, and I've been to 5 other Ohio correctional institutes. I can say that Grafton has offered me many more opportunities to improve myself than the other institutions did. The pandemic was very hard for me. I'm an outdoors person. I like to be outside enjoying the fresh air and the sunshine, and we had restricted movement because everybody had to get a turn to, have a little bit of time outside. It was a very difficult time for me, as well as my mother passed away during the pandemic. She had throat cancer and wasn't able to get the treatment she needed. So yeah, it was a very difficult time for me. The opportunity to work in the garden really helped me change my focus from my own difficult problems in life to focus on what other people are going through, and it really helped me change my perspective and gave me new purpose. My problems didn't seem so big when I've never known hunger, I've never been homeless, I've never had an addiction problem. So as I toiled in the soil, so to speak, I was able to focus on other people and think about the good that I was doing for them instead of myself. And it really inspired me to, focus on living my life that way, to reach out and try to change other people's lives. And in the process, my life became better. I feel like a more mature individual, spiritually and emotionally, and I'm just thankful to have the opportunity to do that, and I appreciate being here today. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jose. I'm currently serving a 40-year sentence. I got 23 years in. I'm a former gang leader. I was given a chance by this man right here to be a part of the garden. First program I did, haven't done any programs. A lot of it is because of being part of a gang and the rank that I have or had didn't allow us, so they took a chance on me. I've been a part of the garden. This will be my second year. I enjoy what I do now. Better communication with the staff. Now I get to, instead of showing the difference of the bad part, I can show the good side and have everybody else look at the things that we can provide for the people on the streets instead of taking away. We don't realize how much we can give y'all until we participate our time and share our time with y'all. And knowing that we can make a change, not just for us, but for the people out there too. Learning and understanding that gave me a better outlook of my life now. I look at it different. Instead of the way I used to look at it, I've been in probably about 12 to 14 different prisons. This is the first time in 23 years I could say that I actually made a change. I've been here 4 years and I learned a lot. And I'm blessed and thankful that I have this chance. I'm blessed and thankful that I can show that I'm not the only one to have a chance like this.
Yeah.
So I'm really thankful for this man right here. Thank you.
My name's Fred. I've been in prison for 24 years, 11 of those years here at Grafton, before that Trumbull Correctional Institution. I worked for 20 years as a paramedic. I have a master's degree from Temple University and a bachelor's from Akron University. And I have 3 wonderful children who have been extremely supportive. And I had a really rough time during COVID because I was used to being in a position to be able to help people as a paramedic. So at the time when my family needed me most, I was locked up. It was my own fault, and I'm greatly remorseful for that. The worst part of the pandemic for me was that my youngest son, who was 33, lost his life to COVID, and it was quite a shock. So mentally, I didn't feel like I could cope with it very well, but I knew I had to because I had to be strong for my other children. We talked a lot on the phone, but we waited to have a visit in person until the bans got lifted and we were able to actually hug and cry over everything. During that time, I was asked to come and work in the garden. I was a member of the Catholic community here. I was very well aware of how great of service the Catholic community is for people on the street. So it gave me an opportunity to work with my hands, be part of the garden. I work in here as I was also a Braille transcriber and AutoCAD drafter. I worked a lot with our warden, Mr. Reynolds, on designs for the prison that we did, signs and this type of thing, because my master's degree is in fine art. So during that time of being able to work in the garden and help out with growing things was wonderful. It grounds you out. Something really wonderful about knowing that you're producing things that are going to help people who are less fortunate, and it satisfied an inner need I had to help people. So the best thing that happened after COVID was over and we worked the garden. I've been in the garden. This will be my 3rd year coming up. We had a little banquet. Mr. Reynolds and our leader here who's coming up next helped to give us a banquet where the tappers and everyone could have their families come. And my children, who are grown children, were very happy to see the video of how we help people with hunger and with things that they needed for clothing and whatnot. And they told me that they were extremely proud of me that I was able to do something like that while I was still incarcerated. And so I think that's probably the best thing that really has happened for me in all these years, and being part of this changing environment, because a lot of men in here are they're just like everybody else. They're penitent and they're altruistic, and they want motivation that will help them to achieve happiness in their soul. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to Sister Rita and the Catholic community, and I'm missing Mass right now, but I think Father Neil will understand. So that's all, and thank you for listening, and thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ricky. I work in the garden. I've been incarcerated for about 30 years, 10 and a half of that here at Grafton. I've been in a few prisons down south in Ohio, some of the higher securities. And since being here at Grafton, life has completely changed for me. I was not prepared for a place like this. When you're in max security for decades, you're not prepared to just walk around and be around level 1, level 2 type of mentality. So it took me a while to find my space here. One thing that I always did have was a drive to help people. Even when in places like Lucasville and Lebanon, the chaos of what goes on in these places, there was times when I would sit back and look for ways to help people who were in different situations, different circumstances. But there weren't hardly ever any opportunities. When I came here and saw all this different stuff going on, I didn't know where I belonged. I was angry. I was a whole lot of things. And so it took me some time to figure out what I was supposed to do. When the pandemic hit, obviously being in higher security, being locked down all day, I'm used to lock and feed. So it was something that I adjusted right back into, but it didn't alleviate the stress. So I was looking for something to relieve the stress. And one day, Dr. Wesson came up to me and said, "Hey, I'd like you to take the lead on something." And that began the garden. Since that time, the garden became much more to me than a stress reliever. It became an avenue of great personal growth. The things that I saw, the way that I saw other prisoners, the way that I saw the staff, the way that I saw myself, my family, and just life in general, everything changed. I can remember early on in season one, I was standing next to Sister Rita, and she had a reporter here. And Sister Rita said something along the lines of there's something very healing about watching things grow. And I can remember sitting in the garden and prison disappearing. I was watching the birds play in through the plants. I was eating the bugs. I was watching the butterflies and the bees fly around. I felt the breeze, and I just thought to myself, if there's anything I need purpose-wise, it's right here. So I began to pray and ask God for favor over this project. And as the institution went through all the different procedures with COVID, it didn't affect the garden because there was a small group of us there, and we were pretty much left alone because they were so busy dealing with all the other issues that were going on. And so I had asked permission from one of the deputy wardens to extend the garden, and I mentioned we'd do it 4 feet. When she came back from vacation, it was 88 feet that we extended it to. And it's just gotten bigger and bigger. The vision that I had from the Lord was there's great purpose in service. And I went through a transformation in such a short amount of time to where people I wouldn't talk to because I felt were the enemy became my examples. I started communicating with the administration as I would everyday prisoners. I can't explain all the things that's come from the benefit of working to help other people in this short amount of time. But what I can say is that when the Lord spoke about being aware of the least of these, obviously the scripture talks about prisoners and how people should not forget prisoners. I think when you're in these institutions across America and you're watching this and thinking, what can I do? Well, it's kind of like with Jose, you know, he didn't have a shot and he got a shot to do the right thing. And with other people that get the opportunity, if you're in a prison and it's your decision who you're going to allow to be in leadership and to do these things, it's important that you give people a chance. I don't know that I fully deserved all the gifts that have come to me in the last 8 to 10 years, but I've taken advantage of them. I've done the right thing and I've worked hard. And what I'm reminded of in that scripture is at some point when you give a man an opportunity to be a part of something that's bigger than him, the least of these becomes worried about the ones who are helping him. So it's just natural to hear everybody in this room say, you know, as much as you did for us, it's a joy that we have the opportunity to do for you. Right. And so I would just encourage everybody who's watching this to pay attention to opportunities where you could impact and empower the men who may seem like they're the least of these, because with just a little bit of love and the right guidance and the right structure, you could be training future leaders who will no longer be the least of these, but in partnership with you to help the least of these. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank all of you for these great testimonies. I wanted just to share with you one comment, because we got a number of comments as you were speaking, how much people enjoyed what you were saying. Sister Karen wrote, "To the men, God surely cared through your efforts. How good to tell us that it's important that you know the impact of your efforts on those on the outside. Thank you for encouraging your listeners to realize there are many skilled and experienced people who are incarcerated who are available to assist in a variety of community services projects. Kudos to Catholic Charities. I love hearing of your ingenuity." And to the graduates of John Carroll, as a Jesuit, I'm so proud of what you're doing. You know, being meant for others, you're just showing you know, we bloom where we're planted, and bringing what you learned there to your current setting, all of you. It's inspiring. I want to give Sister Rita Mary the last word before we wind up with some announcements.
Thank you very much. I really, there is nothing more I could say. I think the men have said everything in a way that really, I believe, is touching all of us very deeply. So thank you to you. Really, that took courage. It took trust. And as I said to you at the beginning, I have such admiration for you and gratitude. So thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for this opportunity to really make this available to people across the country. What a gift. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you to Warden Reynolds for making this possible and
Absolutely.
for your work. So thank you again. Thank you to all of our presenters today. God bless you in your work. It's inspiring, and please continue what you're doing. It's great. And let's hope that this is planting seeds in other people's minds, that we can spread this good news and these practices throughout the country and really begin transforming our prison system into something that's humane and contributing to our society, and as well as healing for the people who are incarcerated. So thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you.